Bigger. Better. Bolder. The cold, hard truth is taking talk to the next level. Right here on Bobo 89.1 FM, Cayman's Community Radio. We are still spilling the tea and committed to being part of the change that Cayman so desperately needs. Join Sandy Hill weekdays from 7:30 a.m. for Premier Access, Cayman Voices, Truthful Thursdays, and much more. Cayman's #1 talk show is now bigger, better, bolder, and more than talk. Getting results with hot topics, consumer reports, court exposés, and more.
I've come to set the record straight. I've come to shine the light on you. Let me introduce myself. I am the cold, hard truth.
Now, from the CMR studio in Grand Cayman, live, direct, it's the cold, hard truth. Now, join the conversation on 345-936-2626.
That number again is
345-936-2626.
Let's face it, driving in Cayman is getting riskier by the day. That's why our last shipment of high-quality dash cams sold out in just 1 week. But guess what? They're back in stock, and trust us, you don't want to miss out this time. Whether you're on the road or parked at Foster's, this powerful dash cam has your back with crystal clear recording, parking mode surveillance, and even motion detection to catch vandals in the act. Got a company fleet? This is a must-have investment to protect your drivers, your brand, and your bottom line. Accidents, insurance claims, road rage, vandalism. Don't wait until it's too late. Message us now or WhatsApp 3459249999 to grab yours before this batch is gone too. Dash cams, because the truth is always worth recording.
Great news, Cayman! Tim Hortons is finally open and ready to serve you. Start your day right with our delicious all-day breakfast or grab a box of our famous Timbits and a dozen donuts for a sweet treat. Need a quick pick-me-up? Swing by our drive-thru for your favorite espresso drink anytime. We're open weekdays from 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the weekends, closing 9 p.m. and 10 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, with 2 entrances at the Shamrock Road Roundabout in Red Bay. It's time for Tim's.
Cayman Mall Road is always keen to bring you the latest news first as it happens. So we've switched on WhatsApp channels to make it more convenient for both you and us to get all of the latest news alerts, traffic alerts, and everything else that's happening in your community. It's really, really simple to join the channel. First, just make sure that you've got the latest version of the WhatsApp application installed on your smart device. Then scan the barcode that you see here on the screen. That's going to open up the channel page and gives you the option to follow it. So you're going to want to click on follow. Then step number 2, at the top right hand corner, you're going to see the button that says turn on notifications. It's the little bell, so simply click on it and it'll turn it on, because by default notifications are off for channels. And then that's pretty much it. At the bottom of your phone, when you're in WhatsApp, you'll see an area called updates, and that is where you'll click to see the WhatsApp channel, and all of your daily updates will be there. And you can even go back to when the channel was first set up several months ago and see everything that's been posted. It's a great way to keep up with CMR and everything that we're posting to bring you Cayman's latest news.
I am Richard Hugh, President and CEO of CUC. Our focus has always been on you, our customers. Times are changing, and so are your expectations. We are listening to our employees and the people of the Cayman Islands to find new opportunities that can improve your experience. We are working every day to provide you with a safe and reliable electricity service. You are at the core of everything that we do. We are exploring and adopting new technologies and sources of energy which will benefit you as we become more reliable and more efficient, which will mean lower energy costs. We are working to improve our energy management tools, offer new products and services, and provide 24/7 customer support. Our new vision, empowering Cayman to be a global leader, is building momentum towards a better future for our islands.
All right. Good morning, folks. How is everyone doing? Happy Thursday. Woke up this morning to, unfortunately, a bit of sad news about one of our friends who had been battling a cancer battle. And, it's sad that they fought very, very hard. I mean, extremely hard. In fact, just so proud of them that they did. But unfortunately, heard the news this morning that they did not make it. So sad news to wake up to today, obviously, and our thoughts and prayers are with the family. I don't really want to say too much else, because I know that. It's pretty fresh this morning still. So there may not be people who yet know, but just wanted to still let them know that we are certainly thinking of them. And in fact, just last night, we had gotten a message that, they were not doing too well and they had basically been sent home. And so I had said to my husband, who was a lot closer to the individual, to make time to go and visit him. And unfortunately, the time just didn't happen. So life, no guarantees. That's all I can tell you, unfortunately. And we gotta try to live it to the fullest and live it the best way that we know how. Because there will be times when that's it. Sometimes we get a little bit of warning. Sometimes we don't. And it's quite unfortunate. All right. So a lot of people are struggling today with all sorts of illnesses. And, just want you guys to know that we're obviously thinking about you. And, sometimes people don't even know. There was a case yesterday that I literally just found out that somebody else is also struggling with an illness. And I had no idea. I was like, what? He's sick? And the person said to me, yeah, like it's, they found out more recently. But again, I was just so shocked and at the news. I was dumbfounded, in fact, and still remain a little bit surprised. So illness isn't going to discriminate when it comes to any of us. And like I said, we've just got to try to live our best possible lives, and whatever that means for you, as long as, you're not hurting other people, I think you got to just go out there and do it, really, quite frankly. And there are a lot of people who are living with debilitating illnesses that are in chronic pain and stuff every single day. There are people who have been diagnosed with things that, unfortunately, all they can do is manage it, and it's, eventually fatal. And there's something to be said for coming to terms with in our heads, we all know that we're not getting out of this alive. I mean, I think we all know that. But when you get news that you've just been diagnosed with something that there is no cure for, there might be minimal treatments for, it's different. It hits differently. Just recently, I was at the hospital. I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, I was going to go visit a friend at the hospital, and I went to visit him. And, when I got there, he was having a very emotional moment, and he later apologized. I said, listen, there's no need to apologize for that. I mean, I can't even imagine if I was diagnosed with something that is fatal, how I would respond. We're all going to have our moments of just self-reflection. You're 50 something years old and you feel like you have so much more life in you. And you think to yourself, well, this can't be it. I'm not ready. And that's just how life is, unfortunately. None of us are probably ever ready, but if you've had a less full life, then it hits like totally differently. So everyone who's going through something this morning in terms of an illness in particular, if you have a diagnosis today of cancer, of ALS, of other diseases that are really going to be trying on your life, just know that we are thinking about you, and we just want to hold you up in our thoughts and prayers. And do your best. I mean, there's people who also are suffering from mental health and wellness issues. That's also a disease of sorts. And so I was speaking to someone yesterday, and they were saying to me, they were just having a little bit of a rough week. And I said, you know what? It's okay to just not be okay. Like every day, you don't have to be. I know we get into this thing where, I have to be bubbly and I have to put on a certain persona and whatever for the outside world. And inside, you could really be suffering with some serious issues. And so I just want to let you know that it's okay to not feel like, today's going to be your best day. You don't always have to put on the mask, so to speak. So challenging times for many people. And I think it's okay to not be okay. All right. What a mess. As I heard that news this morning, I literally it's so interesting how your body reacts to things, reacts to news and stuff as well. And, my stomach, immediately felt it. I could feel it in my stomach. I got heartburn. Stress has, I think, a real impact on the body, on the physical body. All right. So I thought maybe we could read one of our daily ohms, which I should be reading daily. Sometimes I forget, and I think this is perhaps a good opportunity for some positive messages today before we start to get into the madness of the world. I see people saying no radio today. Let me just see. Yeah, they're trying to fix this issue, and it still isn't fixed. I can tell you that. We're gonna try to look at it offline. My stomach is just not happy with anything at the moment. Give me a second. I think I'm gonna have to find. My stomach is literally hurting me. Let me get a Pepto or something, because I think the stress of that news this morning just has already upset my stomach. So Just give me a few minutes. Let me just get something to kind of maybe settle my stomach down. I've got some tea here, which I'll have as well, but I probably need something a little bit more immediate. Just give me a brief second, and then let's see if we can't get the radio going as well.
I hear the people talking. What are they talking about? This world's gone crazy, and I'm trying to find a way out. Nobody knows where we're going, or if we're going at all. Nobody cares if we stand, if we have nowhere to fall. It's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out. So many questions answered without an answer to tell. Too many things on my mind for anything to go well. It's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out. Oh, it's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out.
All right, folks, we are back. Thank you so much for your patience. I understand that the radio is now on. I was told I was probably coming in a little bit too low, so I've pumped up some of my audio numbers here on the board. So yeah, for those radio listeners who are just joining us, I had to get myself a little Pepto or something, child, because my stomach is just not feeling well today. We got some bad news this morning that one of our friends, and in fact, cousin-in-law to myself, has unfortunately passed away. So he fought a good fight. Was diagnosed last year. I briefly mentioned his diagnosis. But not going to be calling any names because it's still very fresh, and I'm sure people have got to be notified. So unfortunate. What to do? What to do? Yeah. All right. So, interestingly enough, I was just reflecting recently. So many people pass away over the years. People who have been very dear and near to the show here, and Miss Andine always comes to mind because, every morning she was up. Make sure you send me that link. She was tuned in and listening to the show. And it's actually been 2 years already. July 25th was 2 years that Miss Andine passed away. I was also thinking of Miss Darlene, who was here with us every single morning from the UK as well, listening to the program. And she also, unfortunately, passed away quite unexpectedly. So sometimes you get a little bit of notice and sometimes you don't. That life is, that's it. Your number's up. And what can you do, quite frankly? But yeah, I was kind of taken aback by the news this morning. So my stress, my stomach takes on my stress. I got to tell you the truth. My poor stomach is, but it is what it is. And I'm so thankful because again, not everybody woke up this morning that we know. And so, let us be thankful for what is. We get another moment to live our lives and hopefully impact someone in a positive way. So please don't forget that if you are a parent, particularly single mothers, but I guess there might be non-single mothers who are also struggling with some school supplies. I know that a lot of the MPs are actually doing school supplies. So from that perspective, I'm happy to see that is available. But should you need anything else, by all means, reach out and let me know. We do have some donated funds to help with that. Like I said, there is a little bit of a vetting process in the sense that we really want people to utilize it who actually need it. Unfortunately, more and more people keep reaching out and they're sort of habitual and repetitive in their need for assistance because they refuse to do what they need to do in life. And we're not trying to encourage that type of behavior. We really want you to do your best to make your life's position better. And you can do that. And so, but we all have difficult times, but your difficult times financially shouldn't be a lifelong struggle. You got to find out how to get yourself out of that area, that patch. I'm really hoping that we can have someone who can contribute long-term with a show about these types of programs like budgeting and just showing you how to do these things and what are the things that you should consider when making big purchases in life and, just all the financial stuff. I mean, listen, I can do it, but I'm no expert. You know what I mean? So somebody was saying to me yesterday how much they enjoyed the show the day before, looking at the household survey and talking about these things and how they had set up a budget for their family and the document and stuff that they were using, which is online. So both the husband and the wife can go and update it, their expenses and so on. So I'm going to try to see if I can get a hold of a good budget document for you guys, a template where you can actually use that. So good morning, Miss Marguerite Miller. Happy anniversary again to her and Mr. Dean, who got married yesterday, 9 years ago. So I remember it well because I just had my daughter and they got married several weeks after she was born and she was still in the NICU. And I remember the Saturday wedding and going to that house in South Sound and seeing them come together as an older couple, but still very much in love and committed to spending the rest of their years together. So every year as she celebrates her birthday, a couple weeks after, they're celebrating a corresponding anniversary. So next year, Miss Maggie is going to be 10 years. I feel like we need to do something special for your 10-year anniversary. But again, happy anniversary to you and Mr. Dean. Buenos dias, Ken. Thank you so much to all of you for joining in. That song is called, I need to get the artist, but that song is actually called Find a Way Out. I will try to get the I'll try to get the name for it. I got it off of one of my, let me just see here. There's an actual service that I subscribe to. Once you're a content creator, you try to ensure that you don't run afoul of copyright stuff. So you can subscribe to services that give you access to music. And that was one of the songs that we had used for a video some time back. And so I use it as a filler song. I'll try to get the name of it for you because it is such a beautiful song. It really, really is. But anyway, I'll try to get a copy. My stomach, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have my Pepto. I should take some apple cider for the heartburn as well. Apple cider works very, very effectively for heartburn. You just take a little bit. I just do it like a shot almost, but just straight apple cider. And it'll ease up your heartburn almost immediately. But I know that this is in relation to stress, so I just kind of have to take it easy today. I'm going to have to find my zen. But yeah, oftentimes when I get like bad news, my stomach just immediately, it reacts like almost immediately. And I do suffer from a little bit of IBS and stuff like that. So yeah, just thinking of the family today. Okay. All right. Let's move on. We're left here, right? So we gotta move on. All right. So yeah. Okay. All righty. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Yes. All right. So let's move on with it. Let's read our daily and then we'll get into some topics this morning as well. Oh, Delcy says, speaking of anniversaries, Ben and I celebrated 12 years of marriage on the 18th of August on my birthday. What? You don't say. 12 years. Well, happy anniversary. That's fantastic. So yeah. You're most welcome, Miss Maggie. All right. The power of choice. So let's have a look at this one. Every moment, this is our daily every moment holds the opportunity, my apologies, to choose differently, to trust in your inner knowing and create a life that feels authentic. Imagine a moment when a single decision sparked a ripple effect of change. Perhaps it was choosing to leave a toxic situation, stepping into a new career, or making meaningful changes to prioritize your health. Every choice, no matter how small, has the potential to reshape our lives, define how we show up in the world, and shift the energy we bring to each moment. Choice is not just a matter of preference. It's a sacred act, reflecting our free will and divine connection. When we make choices from a place of empowerment, one that honors our truth, our needs, and what's in our heart, something deeper is activated within us. Old, unwanted, or negative patterns fall away, and a new vision begins to take shape. Instead of feeling swept away by external circumstances, we awaken to our power and become wise archetypes, actively shaping our own story. Every moment holds the opportunity to choose differently, to trust in your inner knowing, rise above the noise, and create a life that feels authentic, aligned, and deeply fulfilling. With every choice, you're writing a new chapter, one filled with the possibility to heal, grow, and manifest the future you've always dreamed of. Your journey is a beautiful dance of transformation, and the possibilities are endless. So, just a word of encouragement about the power of choice. And it's amazing because every day we get a choice of how we're going to get up and how we're going to navigate the world. And, what are the things that we're going to choose to talk about, to focus on, the whole 9 yards. Yeah. All right. So we had choices this morning about what we're going to be discussing. And I had to think about it. I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to talk about? So, no. So, yikes. Okay. Uh-huh. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, 1 second here. Sometimes I struggle with one of my guys because English is not his first language. All right. And so I choose to move forward with patience. That is also choice. Okay. Sometimes the distractions, it is, I'll tell you what, a lot of people are like, Sandy, I don't know how you do this show. Oh my God. Sometimes the distractions of something just coming to you as you come on this show, because this is a live show, can be extremely challenging. And you guys have seen it before, where I come on the show and I just got news about the friend who apparently wasn't really a friend. They're a friend as long as you are underneath them, kind of vibe. And so things can be very, very raw and in the moment. And, I am a person who always tell people there is absolutely nothing wrong with getting emotional and showing that side of you, because that's life and that is who we are. So I'm not generally a person who cries a lot, but obviously I think we all have our moments and there are things that really make us quite sad. And so I'm not going to get too much into the situation with the person who passed away. But I just know that he fought so incredibly hard and he was just a really good person. So, I just feel really bad for his wife and children and loved ones who are going to have to continue without him. But again, unfortunately, that's part of life that we all have to navigate, losing our loved ones. So it's not even about me. Trust me. It is, I'm really just thinking about his wife who has been by his side. She was definitely his ride or die. So, so we navigate this world as best as we can. And I do feel the loss for other people, especially because I know what a difficult time the coming weeks, months, and years will be for them. So I really I'm very, very sorry for them. So, all right, let me try to pull myself together out of jail. All right. Let me pull myself together because now I'm giving myself a massive headache and this is not going to be a good show. What a hot mess. The show must go on. The show must go on. But yeah. Okay. Let's we got Larry to talk about today. Surely that will cheer us all up. Not. All right, give me a minute. I need another minute to get myself sorted out here, and then we can get into some elements of the show. And there is something that I want to talk to you guys about this morning as well. So, okay, give me a second.
I hear the people talking. What are they talking about? This world's gone crazy, and I'm trying to find a way out. Nobody knows where we're going, or if we're going at all. Nobody cares if we stand, if we have nowhere to fall. It's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out. So many questions answered with an answer to tell. Too many things on my mind for anything to go well.
All right, folks. So I wanted to talk about something else when it comes to like loss, right? Because we have the loss of obviously physical people when they pass away. But there's other types of losses. If anyone has been through the end of a relationship, a divorce, that's a loss too that is very detrimental. Loss and ends of friendships. Like you realize that, wow, this person wasn't who I thought they were. And so that is equally a life-changing loss that can feel very much like a death. And so I experienced something recently with someone who I have had challenges navigating this relationship my entire life. I don't understand the person, and quite frankly, I've now concluded that I never really will. And so recently they called me. They picked up the phone, and it's an older person, but they decided to call me, and they had a conversation with me. And there were people there who were listening to the conversation because I was actually in the middle of trying to get a shoot going. And so the videographer was there, another friend was there. And so they heard this conversation and they were so taken aback. After the conversation, they were like, how did you remain so calm? Because it was, given who it was, it was a very sort of emotional, it could have been a very emotional situation, but in that moment, I had the choice, and I made a very, very conscious choice to simply listen to what this person was saying. I also made a choice that I was not going to get in an argument with them. And ultimately, I was making the choice that I was going to choose sanity over chaos and madness for myself. And so in life, you realize that there are some relationships that you cannot fix, that they're beyond your control. Sometimes you can't even understand them. You can't even understand these people. You can't understand what it is that they're really saying, right? And so, at my age now, I'm how old? I always have to think about this. I just turned 52. I was just like, for 52 years of my life, we have not been able to get to a point where you understand me or care to understand me, and I understand anything really about you. And so I think we just have to throw in the towel. This is one of those things where I've kind of already thrown in the towel already, through avoidance, just avoid the person as much as I can. But when this person called me and reached out to me, someone who in my lifetime, if I tell you, that I have struggled to have a relationship with them, because it's a type of person in your life that there is always like societal pressures and everything, like, oh, you should have a relationship with this person. But I've had to conclude that you don't have to have a relationship with anyone, no matter who they are, because some people are just not, I don't want to say that they're not worthy of having a relationship with you, but kind of, that's what I'm saying. Like you would literally drive yourself mad trying to engage with them. And I do not see how that could possibly be worth it. And so there is something to be said for choosing your own boundaries and, letting people be who they are. And quite frankly, just understanding that you cannot control anyone. So the things that they say to you, you can't control. The way in which they want to control the relationship and navigate and dictate, you can't control any of that, except to say, you have to just move away from them. So, it's not an easy situation to navigate at all. But some people have mastered the art, although they don't even know it, but they have mastered the art of gaslighting and narcissistic behavior. And so you've got to make conscious decisions about not being exposed to that level of toxicity. And I often say to people, we're all broken, every single one of us. Sometimes it's really, really obvious, the person who can't let anything go ever. Other times it is not quite as obvious, but it kind of rears its head when certain things happen. But we're all broken. We all have issues that we're dealing with at different levels. And it is just shocking to me how some people, it's almost like they choose to stay in the same place. They choose to have the same conversations, repeat the same behavior. And, a lot of the reasons why we are broken is a direct result of our childhood. The things, not just our childhood, but however, 52 years of drama and how we've gotten here. And so from that perspective, the one sort of remit that I have in life is that I will never, and I always say, use the term never very, very carefully, because these people, they are literally emotional vampires. That's what they are. They suck the life out of you. When you have a conversation with them, they leave you feeling drained and not empowered. And so you've got to find a way to navigate. And for me, that means I'm just not going to engage with you. I don't really care who you are. The boundaries are you get boxed out and I live my best life. And then one of the things I'm very, very, this is my most important objective in life, is that I refuse to allow my daughter to be exposed to any kind of insanity in her life as a child because of family members. And so it's gonna, it already, she's only 9 years old, and there are people that she doesn't know. And it causes conflict. There'll be people who walk up to her, I'm your cousin, I'm your aunt. She's gonna be like, no clue who you are. And so that's okay. And this is gonna be on both sides of the equation. There are just certain things that I will not expose her to. And so I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that that happens. You know, the hate that we have from multiple generations, the dysfunctionality that we have from multiple generations, the chaos that we have from multiple generations. I can't go back in time and fix any of that. I don't even understand a lot of the dynamics of it all, right? Okay, this one was abusive to this one. So, you know, she lived an abusive life and she had all these children, and Sandy, you don't understand what she was going through. I am 1,000% accepting of the fact that I do not understand that other person's journey, right? I can't walk in their shoes. I will never be able to walk in their shoes. I can empathize up to a certain point, but I also know that at some point, regardless of what our journey is and, you know, how we've gotten where we've gotten, if we don't try to navigate the cracks, all of us are a little bit cracked. If we don't try to navigate those cracks, what ends up happening is we continue the cycle of being destructive, of damaging other people, of not raising children that are balanced and that can even have a good psychological and emotional life. And so I can't fix it, you know, and this is hard as somebody who likes to fix stuff. You know, people come to me all the time with their problems, with their issues, and I try to be I'm like the fixer. I try to fix stuff. I have had to recognize in my life that there are certain things that you cannot fix, no matter how hard you try. And that's why the let them theory, you know, you just have to let them, you have to leave them alone. Do you really think that someone who is in their 80s, right, who has always lived this dysfunctional life of, you know, never connecting with people in a deep and meaningful way, always causing chaos or whatever, do you think you can actually fix that person? You can't fix that person. There's nothing that you can do but let them be. And so you let them be. It's as simple as that. Leave them alone. Let them be who they are. The only thing you can do is decide how you are going to interact with them. And so for me, the choice has been really no interaction, because any small amount of interaction leads to madness. And trust me, you know, I've tried over the years, and then some people are like, well, keep trying. And I'm like, why? Why? I mean, keep trying means that I don't get it. That means that I am incapable of learning, that some people are never going to change. It's not that people are incapable of change. It's that either they don't know how to change. That's entirely possible. You're 85, 86 years old. You've been living this way your whole life. You don't know how to change, right? You don't know anything about therapy. You ain't going, you ain't doing nothing about it. So some people don't know how to change. Some people might know and they don't want to change, right? They know the resources are available to them to get out there and make a meaningful difference. Some people have a superficial change. So, you know, they're like, oh, well, I was living in the world and then I became a Christian. And so they think that that fixes everything once they become a Christian, but they've never gone back and addressed the people along the journey, their children that needed to have a real conversation with them, to hear a real apology about why they treated them the way in which they treated them. So, you can be guided by, I don't care if you're a Christian and Muslim or whatever, you can be guided by some epiphany in your own life. And unfortunately, if you don't have a conversation with the people whose lives you have damaged along the way, your Christianity might as well be a sheet of toilet paper as far as they're concerned. And I think mothers in particular need to really, really wake up and understand that sometimes you have got to apologize to even adult children about the type of parent that you are. Remember when Dr. Carlos said that no two people get the same parent? I absolutely agree with that. And it makes so much logical sense. And, you can totally understand exactly how that works. But you have to sometimes say that, you know what, at this stage in my life, I was a young mother. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I made enough mistakes with my kids. Maybe I owe them, now they're teenagers or adults, they can understand a little bit more. Maybe I owe them a conversation where I can say, listen, I'm sorry. I made a lot of mistakes. And I just want to take ownership of that and, see how we could perhaps move forward in a much better way. You parents feel like you get, I don't know, you're like, oh, you get what you get and that's it kind of vibe. It's so incredibly shocking to me. And so the only thing that I can do in certain situations is to decide, all right, how do I respond to this? And the way in which I respond is that I limit my contact with people. I keep my circle very, very tight. And if you know me, you know what I'm talking about. I don't really flex with a whole lot of people. I don't consider a whole lot of people friends. You're an acquaintance, that's fine, whatever. But let's just be very, very clear in terms of the fact that boundaries have got to be set. And it is challenging and difficult to set boundaries with people because society has an expectation that you're not allowed to set boundaries with siblings, parents, cousins. And yes, you are. You are absolutely allowed to set those boundaries. And probably the sooner you set them in life, the better off you're going to be. What can I tell you? Nobody has all the answers. Nobody understands a lot of the things that we're trying to navigate. But I think ultimately you have to find a way to navigate life that means that you're going to come out of this. What does that little Chinese guy say? Emotional damage. You come out of it with less emotional damage. And then you make adjustments for the next generation so that they have less emotional damage. Because if you can't help yourself, you will pass that on. Believe me when I tell you. You will pass that on to your children. And then they don't know how to navigate it. And they're going to pass it on to their children as well. So you gotta break the mold. And breaking the mold will be uncomfortable because unfortunately, there are a lot of people who, again, want to force certain relationships on you that it's just because. I'm going to show you guys this video about speaking again to kind of what Dr. Carlos was saying about no two children or no two siblings grew up in the exact same home. And that is why you can't, even your siblings react differently to situations. And and I've seen this within my own family. You know, you guys know there's the one sister who's always, chaos is her life and tumultuous, and her kids have suffered because of it, and all sorts of stuff. And yes, we all judge each other, trust me. But at some point, I have also accepted that, you know what? I can't appreciate her journey because I know sometimes I've listened to her in the past say certain things, and there are things that she has memories of, whether those are accurate or not, I don't know. But she remembers abandonment in a different way than I might remember abandonment. She has this visual of standing up at the airplane and seeing someone leave her life and abandon her. And she often talks about that very, very specific memory. And so the sad part is some people are intelligent, and if they would only get the help that they need, if they would only go see a therapist, they could really try to navigate some of these feelings, because the sense of abandonment, especially from a parent, has got to be the worst feeling. No, not has got to be. I'm telling you from my own personal experience, is the worst feeling in the world. And we might feel it for a variety of different reasons. So we're getting ready to navigate a new school year, folks. You don't have to reset the gauge January of every year. You can reset the gauge at any point in your life. You can just wake up today and be like, okay, I'm going to be a different person. I'm going to get the help that I need. I've got a lot of childhood trauma. I was abused. I was sexually abused. I was physically abused. I was beaten. I felt like I was mistreated. I felt like I was the black sheep in the family. If any of this resonates and speaks to you in your heart this morning, you need to get help. I know of people, and, you guys know how I feel about corporal punishment when it comes to children, but I know of people who are adults now, but when they were children, they were so viciously beaten by step parents, by their own mother, to the point where they're like, there's no way that this woman could have loved me. Like, I was her punching bag. I was her, she was upset in her relationships because she was out there doing the most with all these men or whatever, and took it out on me because she was upset the most with my dad, as opposed to everybody else's dad or whatever. And so, you can't fix her. Now she's up in age and she's living her best Christian life with her skirt all the way down to her ankles. You can't fix her. You just have to let her be. You can try navigating conversation with some of these people, but I can tell you in most instances, that is not really going to work either. But what you can do is you can try to, I don't want to use the word fix yourself, but you can try to understand yourself better, why you're triggered about certain things, why you react in a particular type of way, why you are even raising your children in the way in which you're raising your children. So in the vein of this concept of no two siblings grow up with the same parents, I want you guys to watch this video.
Siblings can grow up in the same house.
No siblings grow up in the same house. No siblings have the same parents. No siblings have the same family. No siblings have the same childhood. Why not? Number one, there's the birth order. Parents don't relate to the first child the way they relate to the second child. Then there's gender differences. And I'm not talking about whether parents love the kids or not. I'm talking about what actually happens. The child doesn't experience the parents' love. The child experiences the way the parent shows up. Number two, the parents' relationship might be in a different phase with one child and another. Then the parents might be in a different economic situation. The parents' lives might be different. Then each child will evoke a different response from the parent. You have 2 daughters and a son. I have 2 sons and a daughter. It's not that I loved or we loved any one of them more than the other, but we responded to them differently. And there's one more factor, which is children are born with different temperaments, which is they experience the world differently. So even if I could be the same parent to all my kids, which I couldn't be, they'd still have 3 different parents because they would experience me differently.
I think a lot of us can understand that. And I remember when Dr. Carlos first said that, I think it was the first show that he was on, that really resonated with me. And I know it resonated with a lot of you because, gosh, you didn't even really think about it, And as parents, we have to appreciate that is so true, right? If you have more than one child, every single child has had a unique and different experience. And they see you differently and they know you differently as a parent. So your youngest has you as perhaps a more mature and settled parent than your oldest did when you were struggling financially and emotional struggles and relationship issues and whatever, right? I mean, I only have the one, so there won't be others to sort of, compare that to, but she has a different parent than she would have had 10, 15, 20 years ago. I think she is a better parent, personally, in a lot of respects, because of my own evolution as an individual. So I'm glad I waited. But I think as parents, you need to understand what exactly that means. School year is starting. Someone was saying to me yesterday, on average, each child is getting, if they're lucky, maybe half an hour a day of time with their parents. That kind of hurts when you think about it. That is not enough. And this is why I always say to people, listen, I'm a real advocate of parenting with a purpose. And I'm an advocate of family planning and deciding, how and when to have children. Maybe not so much the how, because, you kind of can only make them one way, I suppose. Well, not necessarily, but you know what I mean. But the more children you have, the truth is, the less time you will have for each child on an individual basis. And your children need you to show up individually. They need to be able to sit down and have conversations with you. They're navigating their little lives. Little girls, oh my gosh, they're going through puberty earlier. Their conversations that they need to be having about their feelings. One school, you pick them up from school or they come home from the school bus. How many of us are saying, let's sit down, you and I, one-on-one, and tell me how your first day of school went today. Did you meet anybody new? What was it like? That's hard when you have 4 or 5 children and bedtime is supposed to be 8:00 because by the time you fight this traffic, if you live in the Eastern districts, right? You get home, you fix dinner, or maybe dinner, if you're lucky, you might already have dinner ready. And then you sit down at the dining room table. Even if you try to have a conversation with each one of your children, if you got 4 of them, you're lucky if you're getting 10 minutes. And that's just the difficulty of it. And I'm not just trying to say don't have 4 children. I'm just saying that when you have 4 children, unless you're a single mom with a lot of time in your hands, a lot of finances where you can be present as a single mom, maybe just think about what that means realistically about the time that you can have with each child. You've got 4 kids. When was the last time you went to the movies with just the one kid? Just you and mom, or that one kid and dad, or the one kid and mom and dad. You can't even do that because then well, who's going to be minding the other kids on the weekend while I'm out with little Samantha going to the movies? But I think that we need to make more conscious decisions about how to spend more engaging time with all of our children. Technology gets in the way. They come home, they want to get on the phones, the iPads, whatever. So that's why now my daughter, I have multiple phones, obviously. And we try to restrict her to like YouTube Kids, certain things. So there's one phone that she calls the princess phone. I can't remember why she calls it the princess phone even. It's actually the show phone. So sometimes I have it on me as a backup phone because I can record stuff separately from my phone or whatever. The first question she asks whenever she gets in the car when I pick up for school, Mom, do you have the princess phone? And I'm like, no. Even if I have it, I'm not going to give it to her because she's going to get on the phone, get on YouTube Kids, watch some video that's going to distract her for the ride home, and we're not going to have a conversation. So I'm like, nope, don't have it. But what did you do today? You met your new teacher? How was it? Oh my gosh, yeah, we actually have 4 new people in our class, but 2 in my class, in my age group, my class, whatever. And their names are so and so. And now I'm going to start to get homework. I have my first little project. You'd be surprised the conversations that you can have on that drive home. And sometimes she says the most interesting things that can really let you know, kind of even at a young age, how she's thinking, where their little brains are going. She likes her Chick-fil-A. So right now she's going to be a franchise owner. That's what she wants to do. She wants to own a Chick-fil-A because she thinks that means unlimited Chick-fil-A. But there's so many conversations. I remember the day, I think I told you guys about this before, but listening to your children is so important because they can tell you things about yourself that maybe you don't even think about, but they see things and they can tell it to you in a very raw way, right? So one day she was asking me about the new government. And she was saying to me, the conversation came up and she was saying to me how if I had voted, she'd asked me if I had voted for Mr. Andre, because she remembered Mr. Andre. And I said, no, I didn't vote for him because I couldn't vote for him because he's not, he's in West Bay. And I was trying to explain to her, well, that's like a totally different area. And so we're restricted to like who we can vote for. So she said, oh, okay. But she said, would you have voted for him if you could vote for him? And I said, yeah, I would have voted for him. And she said, really? And I said, yes. Do you think he's going to do a good job of running the country? And I said, yeah. I said, I trust him. I think that he will do a good job. She says, you trust him because, Mom, you don't trust very many people. What did they say? From the mouth of babes? And I was like, I don't? And she's like, no. I was like, wow. Even to her, knows that I don't trust very many people. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And she said, yeah. And then we started to have a conversation about what that means to trust people and why perhaps I don't trust very many people. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to give him and his colleagues an opportunity. Because sometimes in life, you have to just blindly trust. Otherwise, you'd never get anything done. So you blindly trust, and then you see what happens. But quickly, I'm paying attention now. I'm nobody's fool. But when she said, yeah, you don't trust very many people. You don't trust a lot of people. Something like that, she said. I was like, wow. That is so interesting that she knows that and she's made that observation. Let me look at some of your comments. Venice says, everyone deserves forgiveness at some point in life. It's interesting. And I think that what we talk about and what we mean by forgiveness can look very different. So forgiveness does not, in my mind, this is how I see it. Forgiveness does not mean that you and I have to sit down and break bread every day. That's not what forgiveness looks like for me. I think you forgive people more for yourself than for them even. You know what I mean? You have to let it go. Otherwise, you get ulcers, you get heart attacks, you get all this stress in life. So yes, you forgive them. But from where I stand, forgiveness is about just letting it go. Let them be. Let them be. That's forgiveness. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you forget everything and you just start over from scratch and you allow that person to continue to, be a negative force in your life. That's not forgiveness. That to me is stupidity. When you keep repeating the same thing and expecting some different result, when that person has demonstrated to you that they have no desire, no ability, or no intention to change, right? So a lot of people And it's so shocking how parents in particular grew up, they raise children and they have molded people into who they are. And then they turn around and blame that child. Oh, one of the most famous things that Caymanians love, this is what Caymanians love to say when they feel like you're not going to engage with them. Oh, you're ungrateful. This is a classic line. You are ungrateful because you refuse to live on their terms. You're not ungrateful. You're just refusing to live on their terms. Oh, you've forgotten where you have come from. That's what they like to throw up in your face. Oh, she forgot where she come from. How the hell you can forget where you come from? When that is something that is thanks to them, because where you come from isn't really all that positive thanks to them. But it is very much embedded in your brain where you've come from. You know, it's so interesting when people make a comment like that, because I think, oh, do they not understand how the trauma that you had as a child was because of them? And then they think that you can just forget that trauma. It's like, no, you haven't forgotten that. What you have done is, in spite of it, you have tried to move forward with your life in a meaningful way. It doesn't mean that you have forgotten. It means that you're not staying there. You're not going to remain in that place, and you're not going to dwell on it. Because what does it mean? You've forgotten where you come from because you have to act like a hoodlum because you came out of the hood? You have to act like them, emotionally detached and crazy? That's the only way to remind people of where you've come from, right? You have to be a disaster as a parent, a financial disaster. Heaven forbid that you should elevate your life and do better. You know, you're the first in your family to get an education. You become the first in your family to graduate with a bachelor's degree, to have home ownership become a reality for you, right? To be able to go out there and get a nice and decent little car, whatever, right? They're going to tell you that you have forgotten where you have come from because you've achieved a little bit of, I'll put this in quotes, what the world sees as success. That's gaslighting. They want you to feel less than, despite what you have achieved, despite having a beautiful family and being married and, you know, more on an emotional even keel. They throw it back in your face and say, no, you've forgotten where you've come from. You haven't forgotten where you came from. You know very much where you've come from, probably more than them, because you've lived it. You've lived and been a product of the dysfunctionality and chaos that your own parents created. And some of them will pick up the phone and tell you that you've forgotten where you've come from. Just let them. They're not rated. Aisle 2025 says, I wish my parents would have done the same. My childhood was pure dysfunction and chaos because of them and the relatives they let have access to me. I'm very sorry to hear that. And again, you know, parents don't ever want to take any accountability, I find, in a lot of instances, for how they have messed their children up. How many of you grew up in total chaos, total dysfunctionality, and have actually had your parents apologize? This is the Caribbean. I'm willing to bet less than 1% would be plenty. They don't do that. They just think, oh, we're not even going to talk about it. We can just move on. Happy birthday, Dean. How are you? Dean St. Clair's birthday today. Happy birthday. Cece says, for me, I love people at a distance, family included. Me too, says Vanessa. Good morning, Felicia. Vanessa says the farther the better. And we do have a saying in the Caribbean, farther distance, better friends. Marshall says you can't fix anyone who's reached that old age after living their whole lives that way. Leave them alone. And it really becomes a question of their intent, right? So I suspect a lot of our elderly parents might have regrets. Maybe they don't know how to navigate because, again, they haven't had the benefit of, you can talk to a therapist, you can reach out. But sometimes just the point of saying, I have wronged you and I am sorry. I made a lot of mistakes raising my children, a lot of mistakes raising you in particular, and I am sorry. Instead, they try to dig into the things that they did for you, like they were doing you a favor. Oh, I sent you money and I did this. And it's like, that's your job as a parent. Did you not sign up for this knowing that you were to raise your children? Who do you think you were doing a favor for? Exactly. Nobody told you to have children. But when you decide to have children, it is your moral and legal, the court told you to this obligation to take care of your children. So when you say to an adult child, oh, don't you remember when I sent you a few dollars? Mind you, it mightn't have been much and you were still starving practically, but they're going to remember the one time they sent you $300 and they think that that's going to feed you, for 21 years or whatever. It's like, you think you were doing me a favor? No, honey child. That was your job. And then some. You were supposed to financially take care of your children. You are supposed to love your children. You're supposed to give them attention and care. So for some of y'all parents out there, the $300 is all you could give, and you were emotionally void of anything of value, and you think you did something for them. And then you have the audacity, as I have seen with my own two eyes, to pick up the phone and to tell them that they're ungrateful and that they have forgotten where they have come from. Wow. It demonstrates a lack of complete understanding, I got to be honest with you. They don't have a clue. Jim says it's interesting how those of us who adjust our sails to deal with certain people, learning to set our own boundaries or standing firm with our boundaries, how we end up being the bad person, the difficult person, the mean and or reasonable person. 1,000%. 1,000% agree with that position. Because you see, they still want to control the narrative. They still want to control you. They still want people, the world, to think that they were this stellar and amazing person. I know of a situation where the parent, the mother in particular, was not the best parent, but she worked in a school environment and she was motherly and mothering to all the students there. So external people to the family have these amazing memories of this person. Oh, your mommy was always looking out for me at school. She was such a great person, always made sure I ate and whatever. And it's like, oh, that's nice. And in your brain, you're like, too bad I didn't have that mother. Just like that video. Those kids got an external mother that was very, very different. They weren't going home with at the end of the day, that they didn't get to see the chaos. So their experience with her is totally different, and bless their little hearts that they have had that. And so they want to project that, or, they bring it to you. And what do you do with that? All you can say is, wow, that's great. And just smile, honey child, just smile. Marshall says you can forgive, and that doesn't mean that you have to interact with them. Jim says letting go and or distancing yourself from those we love and care about isn't easy, but must be done to live a healthier lifestyle. Jim says, I love people, but have to love some people from afar. Margie says, you're correct. When they're 80, don't help much, don't want to change, maybe can't change. You can't do anything about it. all you have to do is keep your distance to prevent too much stress on ourselves. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Not bad. How are you?
That's so interesting.
Yes,
In
ma'am.
regards to every child being different, what is, meaningful to pay attention to is that a personality
Mm-hmm.
is an earthly identity.
Yes.
In that, you have two twins, one
Yes.
mother's womb, same father, and the two of them are different.
Yeah.
The personality is an earthly identity. So one time a pastor said, you have to come to the place, where you want to lay down your personality
Yes.
on the altar. And
Mhm.
stop walking around with, that's just how I stay.
Right.
Because you can't take just how I stay before your makeup. And you're either going to, it's a choice. The same way you choose to be angry and bitter and unforgiving and hateful, you can choose to be otherwise.
Absolutely.
Yes. So the thing is, and you can't get away from the manual of life. But Jesus said, if you don't forgive, you will be handed over to your tormentors. So you look at unforgiving people, they have no peace.
Yes.
And the thing is, my mother, bless her heart, she would say, if you have a friend that cannot help you to be a better person, you don't need that person as a friend. And if you have a friend who doesn't see something new that can help them to be a better person, you don't need that person either.
Mm-hmm.
And do not allow anybody to bring out the worst in you.
Mm-hmm.
Respect and appreciate and recognize your value.
Yes.
That is of goodness and greatness and meaning. It's all a choice. That's why we have a free will. That's why we have a soul.
Yes.
Your mind, emotion, and your will. The cows and the animals and the birds, they don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose to think and to reason. We can choose to make a right decision or a wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
We can choose to will to do what is good and best. It's your choice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see somebody that is just intent on a wrong choice, be careful, because before you say who that is, it's like a germ. You don't see the germ floating around in the air. You don't see COVID, but you get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we have to be wise. We have to guard our heart and protect who we are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So as I say, you see some people that 80 or 90 said, they have been handed over to their tormentors. They refuse to be forgiven. They do not know the forgiveness of their Maker in Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You can't give what you don't know or don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So have a blessed day.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate those comments. Thank you, ma'am. 936-2626. The phone lines are open. Yeah. Lots of things I think that we are trying to navigate here today. And, we don't get a life manual, although I think we have more understanding of life, and we have a lot of resources now available to us that previously were not available. And so I think that is an amazing, that is amazing. And so it gives us a lot of opportunities to hopefully navigate life a little bit better. Miss Sonia, so just pray for them and feed them with a long spoon. Some relationships are not worth fighting for. Oh, that's powerful, Miss Sonia. It's not worth fighting for. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, and the closer they are to you biologically, I suppose, the more challenging that is to accept, but that's true. Carrie Tibbetts Walton says, girl, my family has only been users. And when I did not conform to how they wanted me to be, their mental punching bag, I got tired of being told to do what they want. And when I stopped kissing up to them and cut them off, all I can hear is I'm a narcissist. They constantly told me what I'm doing wrong, but cannot see theirs. I got called many names because I told them their wrongs and supporting their daughter in a sexual relationship with a cousin. They saw that as perfect. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah, there are all levels of crazy, Carrie, that are out there in the world for sure. And I guess let them. With a cousin, Lord have mercy. I hope it's not a first cousin. Good morning, Miss Joyce Ann. Are you still on vacation in Jamaica? I saw you were enjoying your birthday time. Jim says, those people who always want or need you in their time of need, but not available when we might need that shoulder to lean on, a hug, or an ear to listen to, but never available. Always having excuses to be available or just not showing up. I think you meant unavailable or just not showing up. Just aren't my people anymore. Not interested in one-sided relationships. I no longer have the time or energy. Miss Sophia, Miss Joy, good morning, everyone. Jim says that kids are much more intuitive than we give them credit for. Oh yeah, they know a lot. Justice will be served says Sandra doesn't trust any of her fans, laughing out loud. If they FAFO, they'll be on CMR. Well, that's not really a matter of trust. That's just reality. That's just how the news works. So it's not about trust. I'm not here to trust everybody in this community. I'm here to report news. Now, the talk show gives us an opportunity to connect. And still, I don't put my neck on a chopping block for nobody. I don't know you like that. I'm just saying. Honey, chill. Where's my tambourine this morning? Tambourine. I keep saying tambourine. My tambourine, I gotta keep that in the studio. Miss Marjorie says, Jesus forgave the people who crucified him, but when he arose from the dead, he did not go back to them. So you can forgive, but not have to mix with those persons. Jasara, good morning. Says, I never forget where I was raised up, but I don't go back there because of the trauma that it caused me. Not even to take my kids to see family. And I don't regret it either. We do video calls, etc., and I love them, but from a distance. And Jasara, it's also teaching your children the boundaries that you probably took a long time to even get to that point. It is teaching them early on that you don't have to go and hang out with people in the hood and sit down and play dominoes with them and both of you eating turtle meat and go acting the fool, and they're gonna bring out the Hennessy and whatever and this and that for you to be able to, still love them or feel connected to them at some level. Being connected doesn't mean that you have to live their life. That's a very different sort of situation. Melody says people don't have conversations with you. They prefer to talk about you, be it your family or friends, and try to undermine you at all costs. I had an aunt. What does DBLE stand for? I don't know what that, you have to tell me what that acronym is. That tried everything to get me terminated from my job. What? My eyes were no longer wide shut. That's sad. Wow. Instagram comment here says, I wouldn't say it was total chaos, but I've had heart-to-hearts with my parents and they have apologized. A lot of Black families have wounds. And not just Black families, but I think, Delionus, you make a point that I think for far too long, we as, African, Caribbean, African, whatever we are, Black families, for lack of a better politically correct word, haven't had the resources to know how to navigate our childhood wombs. So we were just kind of told to get over it, and some of those wounds cut very, very, very deeply. So I'm very happy to hear that you've at least had the opportunity to have a heart to heart with your parents and that you got an apology, because again, I say the vast majority of people will never have that opportunity. Miss Speak Your Mind says, parents, don't apologize, Sandy. To them, they are always right. Wow. Vanessa says, me, but not apologize so far. See what I'm telling you? And so as parents, you're a mother now, Vanessa, I'm a mother. We have to accept that we will probably never get an apology if your parents are still alive from them for anything that they've ever done. But you've got to make sure that you're changing the mold. So when you have, said something hurtful to your daughter, when you have maybe accused her of something or misread her, not even listened to her, you have got to be able to say, you know what, mommy's really sorry. I should not have said that to you. I should not have reacted in that way, et cetera, et cetera. So you may never get the apology, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn how to give it as well. Lanny, good morning. Aliano says, I'm from lived in Winton Park a good majority of my life, lived Prospect for a year, lived outside Atlanta for 5 years, and now I yell with the crabs in the same bucket. Lavana says they don't think that they did anything wrong. Isn't that sad? So they can't see it, and you can't force somebody to see that they've wronged you. So sometimes, again, that comes back to the principle of just let them be. O'Neilla, good morning, says big up to the foster parents because they're raising other people's kids. Oh, thank you so much for that. Absolutely. And I know that the foster system is always looking for good parents. So if you are in a position to foster a child, even on a temporary basis, please consider it, because the system, and most importantly, the children, really, really need good, loving homes. Okay, we got some more messages coming in this morning on the WhatsApp. So Aliano says, well, it's not one birth you that will be the best parent, but the one that raised to task, because it takes true love to dedicate to another, not of blood. Abadan says everything happened because of the Willie Lynch ladder. Let go and read the Willie Lynch ladder. Okay. Richard says forgiveness is very precious. Some people, in some instances, do not deserve it. There are some instances so horrific that I will not lend comfort to them by forgiving them. And you know what is so interesting about that, Richard? It's my observation that as parents start to get older, some of them press you to forgive them so that they can clear their own conscience, I guess, before they pass on, as though that's even how it works. So they want you to forget the trauma. They want you to forget the beatings and the ill treatment and the disconnections and all this stuff, and just come to them and pretend like nothing has ever happened. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice, and perhaps even them. Anthony says a lot of our parents grew up with little education and a lot of ambition, which we have to admire. They had empires with nothing. And during that course, the basic family life and physical love was left out. But their way of love was getting you what they didn't have. Okay, maybe. Except material things is not what makes a person. So, a parent who thinks that they make your life better by giving you material things in life and not giving you just love has missed the boat entirely. But I wouldn't disagree with you, Anthony, that that's probably a lot of what has happened. Barbara G says, what I think is disgraceful is when people have kids as their investments and think that their children are obligated to take care of them in return. Believe me, I've seen marriages broken down by in-laws interference simply because they think that they have the right to their grown children. That is such a good point. And in a lot of cultures, Barbara G, that is expected. So JB says, in other news, U.S. warships off of Venezuela. Oh, Lord. I can't keep up with the United States of America. Melody says, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. This is the actual saying versus a shorthanded version that states blood is thicker than water. Oh, interesting. Thank you, Melody. I never knew that was the full thing. Okay, here's another one. This person says, we got to try and break these generational curses. My mom beat me wicked. However, I forgive her because she too was sexually assaulted, beaten badly, plus her mom also. 3 generations of abuse. It's sad. But they didn't get any therapy and didn't know anything about how to deal with conflict. I tried to help her with that, but no, she was set in her ways. However, I loved her the way she was. Anytime she started to argue, I just hush or leave. Our elders don't get it. They're set in their own ways, so you got to let them be. As you say, you forgive them, but you don't have to be around them. They don't apologize. And she says, true, Marshall. At the end of the day, she ended up coming to ask me back home. However, that was to take care of her, and I did. I stopped my whole life to care for her, and I'm glad that I did, because when she passed, it's a pain you can't explain. It's hurtful, like you're going to die, and so my conscience is clear and no regrets. That's the only thing I can tell you. If it's your mom, if you have something to give her, give it. So very interesting comment there. Thanks for sharing that so much. Diamond Eyes says, I have been through a lot in life. I have children now of my own, and I'm far in a better place because I made sure to break the generational curse. I forgive, but not forget. So I leave them behind. Thank you, Diamond Eyes, for sharing that. Lavana says, please give Jim a kaboom. I can give all y'all a kaboom this morning. Kaboom! We're all having a very deep conversation. Jashara says, exactly. Jim says, not only Black families. No, I mean, listen, it runs the gamut. I think if you're in a Black family, you kind of feel like, okay, maybe some of these things are unique to us, but no, dysfunctionality runs the gamut and transcends wealth or family status. It transcends culture. It transcends, skin color and all these other things. There's just a lot of dysfunctionality out there. Melody says, so true. Boundaries are important. I do the same with my kids. KY345 says, I spent many years apologizing and explaining to my kids why certain situations presented as many parents who really do care often get it wrong at times. It took too much from me. Oh. Goes on to say, I spent many years being the passive person, and most of these years being demeaned and degraded, even disrespected by certain family members, especially mother and brother and older daughter. Wow. So yes, it takes a lot to step in to your moment of truth and recognizing and acknowledging that we all have come a long way, baby. And some of us, we all have a journey that we're on, and the journey never ends until, your very last breath. So I want to encourage parents. We have so much that we have coming up. And, ultimately, I feel like we can have these conversations. That's what I love about having Dr. Carlos on the show. He wasn't able to make it this week, but we can navigate and have these conversations with each other, where we are authentic and we're real. And big shout out, speaking of authentic and real, one of the shows that we're going to have on our program on CMR TV, one of the lineup is a show called Authentic. And this young man, Rayon, is going to be doing amazing things. He was on with Sabrina the other day. I'm going to play a snippet here so that you guys can hear a little bit more about what his show is all about. He's about having these types of authentic conversations on his program. This listener says, I know what you're talking about, as I'm going through the same thing with a family member. I had to press charges and give 2 statements and now working on another court order. This is very sad. And this is very sad and something my entire family hates me. So I'll be in, but none will do and say anything, will say these things and get away with it. It's draining my energy so bad and wasting my time that I could have done more with. I will talk to you more about that soon. I picked a tambourine up when I was in Florida, and my children was like, Mommy, what are you going to do with that now? I said, when Auntie start her show, I'll be singing and dancing with her. They're like, only you, Mommy. Well, I'm getting up in age and I have to enjoy myself. No more dancing and partying, so I'm gonna sing with Auntie. Aw, Aunt Lottie, boy, she gonna be doing it. Yes, sir. Listen to this clip from young Rayon, who was on Monday, I think it was, with Sabrina Speaks.
So my name is Rayon, as Sabrina said before. I'm originally from Jamaica. I am a content creator, and I'm also the host of Authentic, a show that we'll be bringing to CMR. It's about healing, transformation, personal development, one-on-one story, just everyday life story that people go through, and we really don't have these conversations. All of it is rooted in the human compassion, empathy, love. And I think it's important as Caribbean folks and Caribbean people, we take up the mantle of really having some conscious conversations. Authentic actually is something that I've been working on for the last 2 years. Yes, it is actually a concept that I had for the last 2 years. And I really didn't know how I was going to do it. But the universe, it works in mysterious ways. And the opportunity came and I jumped at it. And I'm looking to be a voice and creating a platform where young people like myself feel welcome, feel comfortable to be able to open up and express themselves and live their authentic and optimal life.
Yeah. Wow. Truly amazing. Truly amazing. Wow. All right. Thank you so much, Rayon. Looking forward to his show for sure. Some more comments here. This person says, hear how you talk about setting boundaries. This is what sets them off. When you cut off access to your peace, and they can't control you or access you like they used to. That's when the fangs and claws come out, trying to get you to respond, trying to control your emotions one more time, except that they will paint you as a villain in their stories, all to save face for their vanity. So yeah, wow. Pretty crazy. And you have to recognize the tactics that people will use in order to try to control you. And again, you've got to stop that control. Like I said, when I got this phone call recently from this particular person, I had to think and dig really, really deep and hard to say, has this person ever even called me in my life before? 52 years, and I can't recall them ever picking up the phone and call me. And now they want to call me on some negative-ish, trying to impact me. And I was not going to let them steal my joy. And I remember when I said, I'm actually going to be hanging up the phone. They actually said, this is how crazy people are. They actually said to me, you can't hang up the phone. No, you don't. I'm like, I can't hang up the phone. I'm pretty sure. I was sitting there looking at my phone like this, honey child. I was like, I'm pretty sure I see that hang up button right there. So, and it's my fingers that would be touching it, not yours. But you see, they wanted to continue the negativity and continue to say stuff for me, and I just wasn't responding. I wasn't. They weren't getting a rise out of me. I was not going to respond. And so when I said, okay, I've had enough now, I'm not even going to continue to listen to this ridiculous conversation, they had the audacity to tell me that I can't hang up. I was like, whoa, what world are you people living in? No, sir. Uh-huh. I said, wow, you got some power over somebody, but it not me. Talking about I can't hang up a phone call. I was like, really? Well, that's interesting. Goodbye. Click. And there's a block button. Some of y'all need to learn how to use that block button too. You can block people from calling you. You can block people from WhatsApping you. Make that be your friend. Learn how to block them. Yes. Nathina, says kaboom. Margie says forgiveness is a powerful tool. When you forgive, you relieve yourself of a lot of stress. Forgiveness is not just saying it to yourself. You physically go to a person and say, I forgive you for what you did to me. And I'm asking you to forgive me for any wrong I've done. I believe following this process, you will see a difference in the relationship. Forgiveness is not easy. I must warn you, they're toxic relationships, so that you can go through their forgiveness process and move on. I have done this. Well, I will have to respectfully disagree with you. That does not have to take the form of forgiveness. I know a young man who was abused by his stepmother, and I think that even having a conversation with her is not possible. And so what I said to him is, what you can do, it's a technique that therapists use quite often, is you can write her a letter, because that allows you to express yourself and to get it out. Put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. And you write her a letter about how the abuse impacted you, how it made you feel, whatever it is that you want to say. And then you take that letter and you burn it. It is a symbolic and physical and symbolic thing all at the same time. You take that and you put that on top of fire and you burn it. And with the burning of that letter, that is how you're going to forgive and release all of that negativity into the universe, and it does not become part of who you are. But to have to sit down and have a conversation, with that individual, that may not be possible at all. So, I don't know. Oh, we've got an email here about corruption allegations with a company. I'll have to read that carefully. All right, so we're almost at the end of today's programming. Thank you guys so much for being on. Oh, Lord. Okay. I love when somebody says, oh, check in to see if this time is confirmed. I'm like, except you didn't actually give me a time. Or Kirks. Let me see. All right, let me check the availability of the person who's actually going to be doing the show, doing the video. All right, so let me just change gears briefly. K Mankind says, honey child, forgive them. When you don't forgive a person, they have power over you. I mean, listen, that's great. And I think that, those words are fine. But listen, Mr. Amelia, there are times, so I mean, it depends on the situation. There are times that having a conversation with someone, I think is really, really important. And there are times that no conversation is going to fix anything. So it hardly matters. Speaking of that, yet I actually had a dream about you last night, Mr. Amelia, believe it or not. And it's so funny because I didn't remember it until I just saw your comment. I actually had a dream about you last night. And I'm going to have to take a moment to think about what exactly the dream was about. It was about you and Ralston and something else. So it is interesting that you just reminded me that I had a dream about you, because I totally didn't remember it till I saw your comment. Now it's coming back to me. Oh my gosh. I don't want to get into that, but let me say this. Someone was asking me recently as well, whatever happened to you and your son if the two of you are back together talking. Now, because your situation with the burnt vehicle and all this stuff was it was in the public domain. I think that there's a lot of people who have asked, like, what's the resolution? Have you and him made up? Are you talking again? Like, what's going on? Inquiring minds want to know because it was kind of put out there in public. Obviously, he had a lot of hurt things that he shared. But I am curious whether the two of you are talking again. And I'm curious whether or not you've had a conversation with him, because I don't believe that he did that at all. And I think the evidence will bear fruit from the police that he was not the one who set your vehicle on fire. But I do wonder if you have ever apologized to him for saying publicly that you think that he did that, because that was a very damaging thing to say, not just because he's your son, but especially because he's your son, but also, Romeo is out here with a decent little job at a law firm. I'm sure then people were looking at him kind of sideways and whatever, and made him look a particular way. So I wonder if the two of you have ever had a conversation. Maybe that's the type of thing that we could facilitate with a bit of a sit-down session with Dr. Carlos on one of his shows. We all were sitting here looking at the craziness and the madness, and it's fine to, have a chuckle at other people's madness when it's happening. But you really have to understand the implications of that is that this family, your family, was torn apart by an accusation that was obviously very, very hurtful to Romeo. And I kind of wonder how that has played out. And I know Romeo had a lot to say, but a lot of what he said came from a place of real hurt. Marshall says, anyone I'm talking to on the phone and is talking BS, which I don't care to hear, can't tell me I can't hang up the phone. They'll be talking to themselves because I'll be done. I know, hang up and block. Barbara says, agree. Some cultures, including ours at some point, however, that care was not accepted until parents were up in age and unable to care for themselves. I'm not referring to need, I'm referring to greed and not letting go of their adult children. When parents think that they're owed, your child owes you nothing but respect if you deserve it. Yes, Miss Barbara, speak it, girl. Thank you, Irvelyn. Anthony says all of today's drama discussion, it's all in the circle of typical small island chronicles. No, big people have listen, big city people, New Yorkers, and all them people, they have the same problems, honey child. We think it's small island, but it's all over the world. Marjorie says, don't have a conversation with them, just say the forgiveness line. Yes, doing it through a letter would be fine too. Sometimes you can't have direct contact. I hear you, Marjorie, but I'm saying that sometimes it just, So Marshall says she needs to do a public apology and forgive him for falsely accusing him. Forgive him for falsely accusing him? No. Ask her forgiveness, since she's talking about forgiveness. No, yes. I mean, I think that, yeah. All right. No, nothing to do with you, just a last ditch effort to regain control. Imagine you wouldn't even let a stranger treat you that way, but they expect to because they are family. This person said, morning, Sandra, how are you? I hope you're feeling a lot better. Just checking in on my question regarding doing a Teams call. And I'm sharing my screen and we can do it from there. Okay, I'm a bit busy this afternoon, but we'll let you know. Okay, day. Okie dokie, honey chow. Let me see here. Thank you. All right, yes, beautiful. Okay, somebody sent me a video here. Let me see what this is. Let me have a looky. Let's see. All right, so I just saw an email that came in. This is kind of interesting. Someone is asking for okay, hold on one second here. All right. Let me see. All right. Okie dokie. So someone has sent a message. I'm a little bit confused by this. Asking us to remove their name from an article. I'm confused because that's not how news works. So this is an article about drug smuggling. And so this person has sent in this request by email to say, I just saw it in my inbox. Dear Kim and Ma Road / Renee, I hope this email finds you well and your team is in good spirits. I'm asking to respectfully request the removal of my full name, or if full removal is not possible, redaction or de-indexing of the following article published on your platform. Women sentenced to 6 years for smuggling drugs into Cayman. The article concerns a legal matter involving me that took place in 2023 while I was in the Cayman Islands. While I understand the event was newsworthy at the time and the reporting may have been accurate, I'm asking for your consideration in redacting my name or removing the article from public access due to the long-term personal and professional consequences it continues to cause. Are you out of jail already? You just sentenced. Since that time, I've completed my sentence. Well, that was quick. And I've made substantial efforts to rehabilitate and reintegrate into society. Unfortunately, the continued visibility of this article, particularly in search engine results, has had a lasting and disproportionate impact on my ability to move forward and rebuild my life. I fully respect your editorial standards and the public's right to information. My request is made in the spirit of compassion and privacy, not censorship. If a full takedown is not aligned with your policy, I would greatly appreciate your consideration of the following alternatives: redacting or anonymizing my name and removing my picture in the article, requesting de-indexing from search engines if appropriate. Okay, let me address this because I think, and thank you for the respectful requests. I appreciate you being very, very respectful. And, I'm going to be equally as respectful in my response to you. The short answer is no. The full answer is no. The long answer is no. And that's it. Listen, I'm going to share a story that I was reading the other day. In fact, give me a second. There was a young lady who was accepted into Harvard. I was just reading this a couple days ago. And she had her acceptance letter declined. Let me just try to, hold on. She had her acceptance actually not declined, but she was accepted into Harvard. And then she had it pulled from her and she was no longer able to, I think it was Harvard. Was it Harvard? One of these Ivy League schools, child. She was not able to Let me see. Videos. She apparently had killed her own mother. And she did it when she was a juvenile. And so as a juvenile, she was offered some protections, right? And the protection that she was offered, some degree of anonymity. In this day and age, you should be mindful of the fact that that does not exist as much as you think. Okay? So let me just try to find this. Let me just try to find the story. Yes, here we go. Her name is Gina Grant. She was accepted into Harvard, but her admission rescinded after it was revealed that she had killed her mom at the age of 14. This is an article that was, it's called The Girl Who Got Into Harvard. You can read it in the New Yorker and a bunch of other magazines. For some reason, it recently showed up on my timeline, and I read this thinking, oh, wow, it's not a new story. It actually happened in 1990. She was 14 years old, and she actually killed her mom. And Harvard, you know, when she came out, she was raised by some relatives. And then, you know, they helped her kind of restart her life and all this kind of stuff. And she figures, right, no, I'm good. Nobody's going to ever know this about me. They got an anonymous package because this is life. This is the world that we live in now. And so they got an anonymous, you know, package about Gina Grant's past and the fact that she'd actually killed her mother. Now, at the point that she got into Harvard, she was like helping underprivileged kids, helping them study. Yes, this is the article here. All of this amazing stuff, right? Literally August the 19th. It's so funny that this has come up because this is what popped up in my timeline. And so the lesson here, folks, is that in life, sometimes we will get second chances, but we don't get the second chances in the way that we think we're going to get the second chances. So this article, I read it because I thought the killer who got into Harvard, what the hell? It is a very interesting and fascinating story. I'll post a link here so you guys can go read it. But let me tell you how it starts out. It says, up until the unusually chilly early morning hours of Thursday, September 13th, 1990, Gina Grant's future seemed assured. At age 14, she was perhaps the most promising girl in the town of Lexington, South Carolina. She was bright, popular, accomplished, and pretty. A cherubic face, blonde-haired honor student who always seemed to have time to help her friends with their problems. From homework to romance, and who had just finished 8th grade in glory as her school's first female student body president. The next day, she was still musing over which she wanted to do when she grew up, a Supreme Court justice, a doctor, but now her choices had narrowed. Either she could sit in the back of the patrol car parked in her family's driveway while detectives, uniform officers, and forensic experts swarmed through their family's stiffly proper colonial brick house, or she could warm up at the Lexington County Sheriff's Office a few miles away. Ostensibly, the law enforcement officers presenting her with those choices were concerned about her catching a cold. Imagine. Not if she's a Black child, I would tell you that. But in truth, Gina Grant was already in custody, the prime suspect in a savage killing of her mother. Inside the house was a grisly scene. The detritus of what Detective John J. Phillips, a long-faced, laconic veteran of the Lexington County Sheriff's Department, described as, in quotes, one of the top 3 most brutal homicides I've ever seen. In the kitchen, blood was splattered from the floor to the ceiling, boxes on top of the refrigerator. On the parquet floor is an adjoining hallway. A wide smear of blood traced the trail from one room to the next. And at the end of the trail lay the corpse of Gina Grant's mother, 43-year-old Dorothy Mayfield, or as she was known around town, Dot. Protruding from her throat was the handle of a kitchen knife, which had been plunged so deep that the tip lodged 1.5 inches into her spinal column. In January 1991, Gina pleaded no contest to her mother's killing. She served approximately 8 months in detention. 3 years later, in the fall of 1994, she applied for admissions to next September's freshman class at Harvard. Nearly 18,000 students applied for places at the Harvard class of 1999, and just over 2,000 were admitted. Gina Grant was one of them. It was a remarkable turnaround. Harvard, however, knew nothing of the nature of the dark chapter of Gina's past. Indeed, the university admissions office had come to refer to her as the orphan, because, as a number of glowing recommendations revealed, for the previous 4 years, she'd been living without parents. Her father, an engineer, had died of cancer when she was 11. And as far as the admissions office knew, her mother, an executive secretary at Bankers Trust, had died in an accident when Gina was 14. The facts were that after being released on probation, Gina moved to Cambridge, Massachusetts to live with her paternal aunt and uncle and to piece her life back together as a high school student. She'd gone back to school at Ridge and Latin, a large and well-regarded public high school where she had ranked near the top of her class, tutored underprivileged children, and served as a co-captain of the tennis team. Her secret, she believed, would stay legally buried. As a juvenile, she'd been told that most of her court records were confidential, although some court proceedings were open to the public and had been reported in the local papers. Her time had been served. 8 months for murdering your mother? Wow. Her time had been served, and having paid her debt to society, she succeeded in staying out of additional trouble. She expected to be given the fresh start that is the fundamental premise of the juvenile justice system. In her determination to be treated just like any other college applicant, Gina Grant posed some uncomfortable questions. Should someone who took another person's life, whatever the circumstances were, and however reformed the take of the life was said to be granted so spectacular a second chance? Should a young killer, even one of inarguable talent and accomplishment, be accorded the same opportunities as her law-abiding peers to seek the rewards of society? In juvenile justice theory, the law says, yes, rehabilitation is the primary goal of corrections, but theory and practice can be quite different things. In an era of anger and frustration at the erosion of values, the special protections extended to juvenile offenders are coming under particular attack. In April, and again, this happened back in 1995, so this is a dated article, but in April, the Harvard admissions office rescinded its acceptance of Gina Grant, and the school, which considers admissions matters confidential, suggested that its only reason for deciding against Grant was that she had failed to tell the full truth about herself. But it is far from certain that had she done so, she would have fared any better. So this is an interesting article in the New Yorker. By all means, let me give you the link, go read it. But here's the thing in life. Everybody is deserving of a second chance. Absolutely. However, your second chance does not mean that you get to not live with the consequences of your behavior. So I'm looking at this article that this young lady has reached out about. She is, I don't even know which one. This was I'm surprised she's out of jail already. This now makes me wonder about the system in more ways than one. She got 6 years in 2023. It's only 2025. And girlfriend's already out of jail and thinking that she should be, okay to message us about removing her information? Girl, Felicia. Oh, sorry. So it's this article here. Women sentenced to 6 years for smuggling drugs into Cayman. They're not Caymanians. And they arrived at Owen Roberts Airport. Packages of ganja and magic mushrooms, etc. They were charged with possession of ganja, possession of mushrooms, yada, yada, yada. Sentenced to 12 months each in relation to the ganja and 6 years each in relation to the magic mushrooms. And already she's out. That's astonishing. So of course, when people search her name, it's coming up in the search engine. So that's where she talks about, you know, all this stuff. Did I delisting and whatever? No, child. Listen. Yeah, okay. It's not that I'm not sympathetic to you, but I'm not sympathetic to you. And so the answer is no. I don't even know why I have to explain this, to be honest. But if we started doing this, we open Pandora's box of having to do this for every single person. And that's just not how it works. I even had a nephew of mine. He was posting comments on social media. And he's overseas now trying to find a job some last year, whatever. And when that was happening, they were doing searches, and his comments that he had made about a particular story was showing up, and he was thinking we could do something about it. I'm like, go delete your comments. You're responsible for your own comments. That's why when y'all have these social media accounts and you are all over the place making comments and doing the most, what do you think is going to happen? So we can't do anything about it. Yes, it's on our platform, but it's your comment. So you either don't comment or you go back and find it, which it had been years now, but it was still showing up in search engines, and you delete it because, yes, people are looking at these things going, why were you commenting in a murder case having the most to say about this, that, and whatever? So, Nicole, I mean, I feel sorry for you, but, ultimately, life has consequences. And one of the consequences of you deciding to bring drugs into the Cayman Islands is that people will be able to search your name and find the article. And so there's nothing that I can do to help you. We're not going to take down the article. We're not going to take out your name. We're not going to take down your photo. We're not going to do any of that. So I will reply to her, thanking her for her, nice email, but the short answer is no. I'm curious to know too. Do these people message CNN and be like, oh, we ended up a story on CNN. Can you please, remove our name or picture or not report? Chat, please. Actions have consequences, and sometimes the consequences are very long lasting. Marshall says you might have done your time in prison, but your record stands on CMR for life. And this is the real world that we live in. And this is why, folks, parents, you got to talk to your kids, right? About the stuff that they're out there doing. It doesn't get erased ever. It's reported, it's captured by video, it's there forever. So talk to your children about the behavior that they are engaging in as well. Because things can live on. When we were growing up, we didn't have all the video footage and whatever. So I think we were, in some respects, the internet hadn't even developed into its own. So if something happened to you, it was an obscure mention in a newspaper that's now gone defunct, and nobody's going to probably find that again. But now everything is archived on the World Wide Web. And so there is no delisting it. There's no deleting it, none of that. So all I can tell you is, you're going to have to explain to whoever you're applying to for jobs or whoever this is impacting your life, you're going to have to explain, listen, I made some poor choices and, give me a second chance. That's all you can do. So it is what it is. Barbara says, wouldn't want to be her roommate if she did get it at Harvard. Yes, girl. I know you'd be sleeping with one eye open. All right, folks, listen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know today was a little bit of an emotionally heavy day. We're not going to apologize for it. Some days are like that. And I think we're better off for it when we can have honest, emotional conversations. So we're back tomorrow. Tomorrow's what? Today's Thursday? Oh my gosh. Today's 1 week since I've had my surgery. And let me tell you something. I went yesterday and I did one of my dressing changes. And oh my gosh, I feel, I still have to have the bandage covering it. It's just incision. I'm going to show you guys. This is going to be nothing once this heals. Like, you're not even going to know that I had knee surgery, chill. But they did a dressing change yesterday. Dr. Naranjan looked at it. Everything looks good, healing well. I got physio again tomorrow. So I'm continuing to do the physio exercises on my own that Andy showed me. And well on the way. A week later, I'm already feeling better. So much better. So thank you guys for constantly checking in. And let me just show you what the knee looks like. It looks really good, I must say. Still some swelling and stuff. I was supposed to be icing it more, and I didn't even realize that. I haven't iced it at all because I was like, oh, I'm not really in any pain, but the icing apparently helps with the swelling and stuff. So there it is. Those are the two little incision areas. Did not even require stitches. They'll clear up like I just scratched myself. So I think by Sunday I can take off the little bandage covering, and then that's it. Well on my way to recovery. So I'm hoping to be off of crutches maybe by next week, because I do have to travel at the end of the month. And then, of course, I got a big trip coming up at the middle of next month. So yeah, honey child, I need to be off of crutches. But anyway, I'm happy I did the procedure. Today, again, marks 1 week, and well on my way. All right. So thank you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in today. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday show. I think tomorrow we'll do a Cayman Voices episode. We have Miss Virginia Bodden. Bless her. She's such a delight. Oh my God. So beautiful and so delightful. And so we're going to be talking to her in one of our Cayman Voices interviews. So make sure you tune in for that. I think you guys will really, really enjoy it. All right, beautiful folks. See you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.